The late October sun filtered softly through the bay windows of the Rivers household, casting golden shapes on the oak floor. It was one of those rare Saturdays that felt untouched by chaos. The kind where time slowed down just enough to notice the details. Sky's humming as she scribbled on the living room rug, the sizzle of garlic in Cameron's cast-iron skillet, and the low buzz of the Falcons game Danielle wasn't really watching. Her phone lit up on the armrest beside her. Alicia. Mobile. Danielle stared at the screen, her body still. The name hit like a cold draft through an open window. She hadn't spoken to her younger sister in nearly 8 months, ever since their last brittle family dinner had ended with passive-aggressive toasts and thinly veiled insults about ambition, making people forget where they came from. She let it ring 4 times before pressing accept. Danielle? Alicia's voice was breathless, giddy. Danielle sat up straighter. I'm here. There was a pause. I'm engaged. Alicia laughed, and it sounded forced. It happened last night. Maurice proposed. I said yes. Danielle leaned her head back against the couch and closed her eyes. Congratulations, she said, her voice even. We're having an engagement party next month at Lakeshore Pavilion. It's going to be gorgeous. You, Cameron, and Sky have to come. Danielle opened her eyes and stared at the ceiling fan as it turned slowly above her. The 12th? Yep, I'll send the details. All right, she said, more to end the conversation than to agree. After a few more niceties and promises to catch up soon, Danielle ended the call and dropped the phone onto the couch beside her. The warmth of the room seemed to have vanished. Cameron emerged from the kitchen with 2 wine glasses. You've got that look, he said, handing one to her. What look? The one that says you just spoke to someone who tried to make your blood pressure spike. She took the glass. Alicia's getting married. He raised an eyebrow. That was fast. She wants us at the engagement party, next month, Lakeshore Pavilion. He sat down beside her. You're thinking of not going. Danielle took a long sip of wine and looked away. I don't see the point. They've never made room for me. Not really. Cameron tilted his head, studying her. You haven't talked to them since that dinner, since Mom told me she hoped I'd stop chasing deals long enough to remember I was someone's daughter. He set his glass down. You don't have to go. She'll spin it like I'm the problem if I don't. So? Let her spin. You've worked hard to be where you are. You don't owe them anything. Danielle looked at him, her eyes wet but not spilling. It's not about owing, I just want to stop feeling like I'm still trying to earn a seat at their table. Cameron took her hand. Then go, not for them, for you. Walk in there on your terms. The next morning, Danielle found herself in the home office, staring at the shelf above her desk. Framed articles from Fast Company, TechCrunch, and Forbes highlighted the meteoric rise of LinkVest, the supply chain optimization software she'd built from scratch with Malik Johnson, her COO and oldest business partner. There were awards, accolades, proof, but no pictures of her parents, not even one of Alicia. Sky appeared in the doorway in her fleece unicorn pajamas. Mom? Why do you look mad at the wall? Danielle smiled. Just thinking, baby. Sky stepped into the room, her feet pattering softly on the hardwood. Are we going to Grandma and Grandpa's soon? Her smile faltered. Why do you ask? Because I never see them, and you always look sad after talking to Aunt Alicia. Danielle pulled her daughter into her lap. Grandma and Grandpa are complicated, Sky frowned. Like the math homework you don't like? Danielle laughed in spite of herself. Exactly. In the weeks that followed, the invitation arrived in the form of a cream-colored envelope, embossed with gold foil that tried too hard to say prestige. Danielle placed it unopened on the sideboard. She didn't need to read it. She already knew the contents. The script hadn't changed in decades. Appearances, hierarchy, the dance of who mattered and who didn't. One afternoon, Malik stepped into her office with a folder. "We need your signature on the Gentry Logistics proposal. It's finally clean. 6.8 million over 2 years. Big win." Danielle blinked. "Harold Gentry's company?" "Yeah. Cameron said you met him once?" "Briefly. Arrogant, polished, smug enough to power a city block." Malik chuckled. "That's logistics royalty for you." Danielle took the folder, but her fingers hesitated. "Hold off on finalizing this. Just give me a week." The night before the engagement party, Danielle stood in front of the mirror in their bedroom wearing a custom-tailored royal blue suit. The blazer hugged her shoulders perfectly, sharp, understated, unapologetic. Cameron walked in, adjusting his cufflinks. "You look like someone who doesn't ask for permission." "Good. That's the idea." Skye skipped in behind him, dressed in a lavender tulle dress with sparkly sneakers. "I look like a cloud," she declared proudly. "You look like a princess," Danielle said, kneeling to fix the ribbon in her daughter's puff. "Will Grandma be there?" Skye asked. Danielle hesitated. "Yes." "Will she be nice this time?" Cameron moved closer, his expression unreadable. Danielle kissed her daughter's forehead. "No matter what they are, we'll be us. That's what matters." As the car turned onto the circular driveway of the Lakeshore Pavilion, Danielle felt her stomach tighten. The venue was as opulent as expected. White columns, manicured hedges, and valet attendants in tuxedos. As they stepped out, a few heads turned. "Is that Danielle Rivers? I thought she cut ties with the family." Skye clung to Danielle's hand. "Why are they looking at us?" Danielle bent down and whispered, "Because we look amazing." Inside, a string quartet played something elegant and forgettable. The room sparkled with crystal and silver, but the air was stiff with forced pleasantries. She spotted Clinton and Elaine near the bar. Her father looked tired. Her mother, flawless and frozen. When they saw her, only her father nodded. Elaine's smile was tight, eyes scanning Danielle's suit like she was inspecting for defects. "Danielle," Clinton said. "No warmth?" "Dad? Mom?" Elaine glanced at Cameron and Skye. "Cameron, Skye, you've grown." And then, silence. Just when the awkwardness threatened to suffocate the moment, Alicia appeared, glowing in ivory satin, hair curled to perfection. "Danny, you came," she said, embracing her. Danielle returned a polite smile. "Congratulations," Alicia beamed, oblivious. "I want you to meet Harold Gentry, my future father-in-law." A tall man in a navy suit approached. His eyes flicked over Danielle like he was scanning a barcode. "So," Harold said loudly, "this is the one they always said didn't quite fit." Danielle's face didn't move. Cameron's hand found the small of her back. Harold chuckled. "Honestly thought you'd stay home, but I suppose every family has a black sheep." What Harold didn't know, what no one in that room knew, was that his company had been working on a major partnership with hers. Danielle smiled, cool and measured. "Nice to meet you, Harold. I've heard plenty," he scoffed. "We're the biggest distribution company in the Southeast, about to finalize a deal with some small tech startup. Lucky folks." Danielle tilted her head. "That right?" At the check-in table, a young woman with an iPad frowned. "I'm sorry, you're listed under overflow seating." Danielle blinked. "I'm the bride's older sister." "Yes, but the list places you at Section E, near the gift table." Cameron touched her elbow. "Want to leave?" She looked at him, then at Skye, then past the sea of crystal chandeliers and curated smiles, her jaw set. Not yet. The walk to Section E felt longer than it should have. past chandeliers dripping in crystal, past tables adorned with orchids and embossed place cards, Danielle guided Skye with one hand and held Cameron's with the other. Each step echoed in her ears, not from the noise, but from the weight of eyes, whispers, judgments muted just enough to feel sharp. The gift table was nestled in a dim corner beside an auxiliary door. No centerpieces, no linen, no welcome, just 3 chairs. One was slightly crooked. Danielle stared at the arrangement. "This can't be real," she muttered. Skye looked up at her, confused. "Is this our table?" Danielle crouched down and brushed a curl from her daughter's cheek. "For now." Cameron, ever the calm eye in her storm, placed his blazer on the back of his chair and glanced around. "We'll stay for a while. Then we go. No need to suffer through the whole thing." Danielle sat down slowly. "I'm not leaving yet," he nodded, saying nothing. He knew that look on her face. It was the same one she had when a major investor tried to force terms she didn't agree with. The same look she wore during every battle she'd won. 20 minutes passed. Waitstaff barely acknowledged them. Guests trickled by, some recognizing Danielle and offering stiff smiles or half waves, but most averted their eyes, as if proximity might risk contamination. A tall, overdressed woman approached the gift table, setting down a bag with a glinting silver ribbon. She barely registered the family seated beside it. Then, "Oh," she said, surprised. "You must be staff." Danielle didn't flinch. "No, I'm the bride's sister." The woman blinked, then walked away without apology. Cameron chuckled bitterly. "Subtle." Danielle took a slow breath and scanned the crowd again. Alicia was laughing somewhere across the room, arm in arm with her fiancé Maurice. Her parents stood nearby, chatting with Harold Gentry and a few country club types, drinks in hand, comfortable in their curated universe. That's when Harold saw her again. He excused himself from the group and strolled toward the gift table like a man approaching a problem he thought he could fix with money or charm. "Well," he said, voice low and oily, "looks like you found your spot." Danielle stood. "You mean the spot chosen for me?" Harold's grin was wide. "It's not personal, just optics. I wasn't aware families had overflow seating." He laughed. "Come on. You know how these things work. Important guests take priority. That's how structure works." Cameron rose beside her. "You mean people who look right, sound right, act right?" Harold's eyes swept over him with thinly veiled disdain. "I'm just saying it's easier for everyone when the vibe is curated." Danielle tilted her head. "You always talk this much around people you think don't matter?" Harold smiled, oblivious. "Only when they seem to think they do." He walked away, self-satisfied. Danielle's fists were clenched at her sides. "I need air," she said, and Cameron didn't follow this time. He stayed with Skye, keeping her distracted with doodles and juice boxes. She found herself back in the corridor near the coat check, cold marble beneath her heels. The laughter behind the banquet doors felt like another world. Danielle pulled out her phone and stared at the screen. Malik's name was near the top of her recent calls. She didn't hesitate. He answered on the second ring. "Boss? I need you to cancel the Gentry logistics deal, effective immediately." Pause. "Danielle, what happened?" "I'm at Alicia's engagement party. Harold Gentry just told me I don't belong. They sat us by the gift table like, we're staff." A beat of silence. "He didn't know who you were?" "No idea, and I didn't tell him." "You sure about this?" "We're a week from signature." "I'm not doing business with people who treat me like I'm beneath them." "Send the termination notice. We'll issue a press statement if needed." Malik exhaled. "Understood." She ended the call and stared at her reflection in the hallway mirror. Her suit was impeccable, her posture unshakable. But behind the sharp lines was someone vibrating with old, raw wounds. This wasn't just about a seat. This was about a pattern, a design, a decision made years ago by people who were supposed to love her unconditionally, and never did. When she returned to the table, Cameron met her eyes instantly. "You okay?" "I've never been clearer." "What did you do?" "I shut it down." He didn't need clarification. There was a flicker of pride in his smile. About time. Another hour passed. Danielle didn't speak to anyone else. She watched the parade of speeches, the fake laughs, the way Elaine held Alicia's arm like a trophy. She watched Clinton shake hands like a politician running for re-election. She watched Harold flirt with the caterers and call it charm. At one point, a photographer hovered near their table. "Could I get a picture of the gift table area?" Danielle stared him down. "Only if you want a photo of the bride's sister, next to the toaster oven and a bunch of cards." He blinked. Sorry." She didn't smile. Later, as dessert was being served and the lights dimmed for the couple's first dance, Danielle stood again. "Let's go," Cameron whispered. "Not yet." Skye looked up from her seat. "Are we moving?" Danielle crouched next to her. "Yes, sweetie. We're going to find a better place." "Like by the cake?" Danielle smiled. "Exactly." They rose as a family. They walked back toward the main banquet room. Guests began to notice. Heads turned. Alicia's smile faltered when she saw Danielle approaching. And Harold? Harold Gentry choked slightly on his drink. He moved toward them with wide strides. "You were assigned seating already," he hissed when he reached them. "Why are you here?" Danielle looked him straight in the eye. "Because I belong here," he sneered. "If you don't go back, I'll call security." She smiled. "Please do. Let's see how the press spins it when the bride's sister is escorted out." Maurice appeared then, tugging Alicia's hand. "What's going on?" Danielle turned to her sister. "Alicia, did you know where we were seated?" Alicia's expression was a mix of guilt and confusion. I thought they'd placed you somewhere private." "I didn't think—" A staff member appeared nervously beside them. "I can explain. Mr. Clinton, Mrs. Elaine, and Mr. Gentry gave us instructions to seat Ms. Rivers and her family near the gift table." Alicia blinked, stepping back from Harold. "You did what?" Harold shrugged. "It was for the atmosphere." Danielle spoke clearly. "You mean to hide me?" Elaine and Clinton appeared then, sensing trouble. Danielle turned to her parents. "You told them to isolate me." Again, Clinton said nothing. Elaine folded her arms. "We did what was best for the occasion." Danielle nodded slowly. Then she turned to Alicia. "Now you know." And with that, she turned around. Not quietly, not in shame, but like a woman walking out of a boardroom after the final word. Danielle didn't stop walking until she reached the heart of the room, the center of the illusion. Chandeliers above, silk linens and polished forks below, laughter, cameras, and string music all conspiring to pretend nothing ugly had ever happened in this family. She walked directly to the center like she owned it. Because she did. The moment. People realized she wasn't just passing through. The air changed. Conversations faltered. Wine glasses lowered. Someone turned down the volume on the music. Danielle could feel the shift before a word was said. Harold tried to cut her off first. "This is not the place." "It is exactly the place," she said, her voice cool but commanding. "Because this is where the performance is happening, right?" Alicia stepped forward. "Danielle, please, let me finish." Danielle turned to face the room. "My name is Danielle Rivers. I'm Alicia's sister, Clinton and Elaine's eldest daughter, and I was seated next to the gift table like an afterthought. A stunned hush settled over the crowd. I was told by my own father that my presence in the main room would embarrass the family. A few gasps. Eyes widened. Cameras were already recording. Harold stepped forward, red creeping up his neck. "This isn't the time or place for theatrics." Danielle turned to him. "You know what's funny, Harold? That small startup you were bragging about earlier, the one you said would be lucky to work with you?" She smiled. "That's my company, LinkVest. I'm the founder, and I just canceled the $6.8 million deal you were about to close with us." Dead silence. Someone in the back choked on champagne. Harold froze. "That's not... You can't be..." "Call your COO, Marcia Green," Danielle said. "She'll confirm it. Or better yet, check your email. Malik should have sent the cancellation 5 minutes ago." Elaine's face went pale. Clinton looked like he'd been punched in the gut. "You're bluffing," Harold said suddenly, shaky. "This is just a tantrum." Danielle raised her voice slightly, enough to carry across the hall. "Let's be clear. This isn't personal revenge. It's professional boundaries. I don't do business with people who believe humiliation is acceptable just because they wear expensive suits." Alicia stepped in, eyes wide. "Wait, you really canceled the deal? Danielle, do you know what that means for Maurice's father?" Danielle turned to her sister slowly. "Do you know what it meant to put me near the exit with the gift bags like I was help?" Alicia hesitated. "I thought it'd be quieter for you, more private. You watched me sit there, with my husband, with my daughter. You watched and said nothing." Alicia's voice cracked. "I didn't know how to stop them. You didn't even try." Behind them, Harold's phone buzzed. He looked down at it, read something, and his face crumbled. "She's not lying," he muttered. The guests rippled with murmurs. He looked back at Danielle, desperate. "We can revisit the deal. I'll handle everything differently moving forward. Don't let one misunderstanding ruin..." Danielle raised her hand to stop him. "You had a chance to treat me with respect before you knew who I was. That moment's gone." Cameron walked up behind her now, steady as always. "We're done here." But Danielle wasn't done. She turned back to her parents. "Say something." Elaine raised her chin. "You came here to make a scene. You always needed attention." Danielle's laugh was sharp. "Attention? I've spent most of my life being invisible to you." Clinton crossed his arms. "We didn't want drama at our daughter's celebration. You turned this into a power play." Danielle stepped toward him. "You wanted me out of sight because I didn't fit the narrative. That's not about celebration, that's about control." Elaine snapped. "You've always been difficult. And you've always been disappointed that I wasn't obedient." Alicia took a trembling breath. "Stop, please. This was supposed to be a good day." Danielle looked at her sister. Really looked. She saw the makeup starting to smudge at the corners of her eyes, the tremble in her jaw. Then Danielle said, softer this time, "You let them do it, Alicia. You let them reduce me. You let them reduce themselves." Alicia's voice dropped to a whisper. "I was afraid they'd turn on me too." Danielle nodded slowly. "Now they have." For a beat, nobody moved. Then Alicia turned to her parents. "You did this. I didn't ask you to. I didn't want you to." Clinton said nothing. Elaine's mouth tightened into a thin line. "You never even gave her a chance," Alicia said. "You just decided she didn't belong." Danielle stared at her mother. "You once said I was the one who didn't blend in. Maybe I was never meant to." Elaine opened her mouth, then closed it again. Danielle turned to Maurice, who had barely said a word the entire time. His eyes were on the floor. "She addressed him directly. Your silence says more than anything else." Maurice nodded once, almost imperceptibly. "I'm sorry. You're not the one who needs to be," she said. Danielle turned back toward the crowd. "Some of you know me by name, some of you by reputation. Some of you judged me the moment I walked in. But today wasn't just about me." She gestured toward her husband, then her daughter. "You tried to silence a family, mine, and I won't let that stand. Not in my house, not in my company, and not in my bloodline. Then she took Cameron's hand. We're leaving. Sky deserves better than this. They turned and began to walk. As they moved toward the exit, the music resumed faintly. People started whispering again, some taking video, some pretending not to look. Harold followed them to the threshold. Danielle, wait. The deal. Think it over. She looked at him one final time. You don't get to ask for favors from people you tried to humiliate. And then she left. Outside, the night was clear, quiet, cool. Danielle took a deep breath. It filled her lungs with something that didn't quite feel like air. It felt like freedom. Cameron draped his arm over her shoulders. You were brilliant. She didn't answer right away. Sky twirled on the sidewalk nearby, unaware, humming to herself. I feel clean, Danielle said. Like I finally took off a costume I didn't even know I was wearing. Cameron smiled. Keep it off. She looked at him. I'm not going back. I know. The next morning, Danielle was up before sunrise. She padded into the kitchen barefoot and made herself a strong cup of coffee. The house was still. The world was still. Her phone buzzed. Marcia Green, Gentry Logistics, she answered. Danielle. Marcia's voice was breathless. Harold's been calling me since 5. He says the deal fell apart because of the engagement party? Danielle leaned against the counter. That's accurate. I had no idea there was a personal connection. Now you do. Marcia sighed. I respect your decision. Just wanted to hear it from you directly. You did. When the call ended, Danielle didn't feel vindicated. She felt done, and that was enough. 3 days passed, but the aftershocks hadn't faded. Danielle's phone had barely stopped buzzing since she walked out of the engagement party. Executives, PR specialists, old boardroom contacts, and industry vultures who smelled blood in the water. It was a storm of reactions, assumptions, and backdoor pleas. Most of them were from people at Gentry Logistics, or people who stood to lose from Link Vest's withdrawal. Marcia Green was the only one who didn't beg. Her second call had come just after lunch on Monday. I just want to apologize again, she said, for Harold, for the disrespect. It was unacceptable. Danielle sat at her desk, fingers laced together. Marcia, I know you weren't part of it, and I appreciate your professionalism. We'd still like to find a path forward, privately, quietly. I'm not interested in quiet, Danielle said. Quiet is how people like him stay in power. There was silence on the line. Marcia exhaled. Then I wish you luck, genuinely. Danielle appreciated that. She ended the call and stared out the window, where late autumn light shimmered through the trees like filtered forgiveness. That night, Cameron made pasta and poured her a glass of wine. Sky built a fort out of couch cushions and demanded they call her Princess Sky of Atlanta. It was the first time Danielle smiled in days. After Sky went to bed, Danielle curled into Cameron on the couch, her head resting on his chest. The sound of his heartbeat was grounding. You know, he said softly, you just burned a bridge most people wouldn't even admit existed. Danielle nodded. It needed to burn. He kissed her hair. What now? I don't know. For the first time in a long time. I have no idea what comes next. Cameron held her tighter. That might be the best place to start. Wednesday morning brought something unexpected. A message. Alicia. Can we talk? Just you and me. No drama. Please. Danielle stared at the screen for a full minute. Cameron noticed. That her? She nodded slowly. She's trying. She waited until the fire cooled off. Still trying, he repeated. Danielle didn't reply right away. She went for a walk instead, 5 blocks down to the bookstore and back. cool air in her lungs, memories in her throat. By the time she returned, her fingers finally typed, "Okay, tomorrow, 4 p.m., Eastside Grounds Cafe." The cafe was small, tucked into the corner of a quiet neighborhood east of downtown. Danielle arrived first, deliberately. She chose a corner seat facing the entrance. At exactly 3:59, Alicia walked in. Gone was the perfect makeup, the sculpted curls, the practiced pageant smile. Her eyes were red-rimmed, and she clutched her purse like it held her balance. She sat across from Danielle and set 2 cappuccinos on the table. "Still your favorite?" she asked. Danielle gave a slight nod. "It hasn't changed." Alicia wrapped her hands around her cup, silent for a beat. "I've run out of people who talk to me like I'm human." Danielle sipped her coffee. "That's what happens when you build your world on approval. It turns on you." "I was scared," Alicia said quietly. "Of disappointing them. Of being like you." Danielle raised an eyebrow. "You mean independent?" "No," Alicia said, voice cracking. "I mean alone." Danielle leaned back. "That's what they told you I was. They told me you were angry, that you wanted everything to be about you, that you were difficult." Danielle didn't laugh. She didn't need to. Alicia kept talking. "But after that night, after I saw you stand in the middle of that room and call it like it was, something shifted. I realized I've never stood up for anything, not even myself." Danielle studied her for a moment, then set her cup down. "What do you want, Alicia?" "I'm redoing the wedding." Danielle blinked. "Excuse me?" No Harold, no Gentry money, no mom, no dad. Just Maurice, a few friends, and people who actually matter. Danielle said nothing. "It'll be small," Alicia went on. "Private, no press, no luxury venue, just honesty. I already gave back the dress, and I'm writing new vows." Danielle raised an eyebrow. "And this is your idea?" Alicia nodded. "Maurice and I had a long talk. He didn't say anything at the party because he didn't know what to say. But he saw it. He saw all of it. And he doesn't want to be part of that world either." Danielle's face softened slightly. "So you're walking away from all of it?" "I'm trying to. I know I don't deserve it, but I'd like you to be there." There was a pause. Then Alicia slid a hand-addressed envelope across the table. Danielle didn't touch it. "You know what hurt the most?" she said. "It wasn't being seated by the gifts. It wasn't Harold. It wasn't even Mom's cold stare." Alicia looked up. "It was watching you see it, really see it, and say nothing." "I know," Alicia whispered. "I was a coward." "No," Danielle corrected gently. "You were trained to be, like we all were. You just didn't unlearn it fast enough." Tears welled in Alicia's eyes. "I'm sorry." Danielle finally picked up the envelope and slid it into her bag. "I'll think about it." Alicia nodded. They didn't hug, they didn't cry, but when they stood to leave, they didn't look like strangers anymore. Later that night, Danielle sat alone in her home office. She lit a candle, let it flicker. Then she pulled the envelope from her bag and opened it. Inside was a handwritten invitation. Danielle Rivers and family, sister of the bride, not guest. Not overflow, family. The next morning, her inbox pinged with another message, this one from Harold Gentry. Subject, about the deal. She didn't open it. She didn't need to. Danielle closed the laptop and turned toward the sunlight spilling across her desk. She didn't feel like fighting today. She felt like healing. The drive to the new wedding was quiet, almost meditative. As they left the buzz of downtown Atlanta behind and headed toward the green edges of the city, Danielle watched the changing skyline through the passenger window. Cameron was behind the wheel, calm as ever, and Sky sat in the back, humming something soft, while braiding a ribbon into her doll's hair. The new venue wasn't a grand ballroom or an opulent estate. It was a modest garden hall nestled on the edge of a tree-lined park, small, intimate, and brimming with late autumn color. Ivy curled around the entrance gate, and the late afternoon light bathed the wooden archway in gold. Danielle wasn't sure what she expected, but it wasn't this. Alicia was waiting by the door, not flanked by photographers or planners, but standing alone in a simple ivory dress that moved with the breeze. Her curls were looser this time, undone. Human. When she saw Danielle, her entire face changed. No fear, no script, just something real. "You came," she whispered as they stepped from the car. Danielle smiled faintly. "You invited me." Alicia didn't cry, but she did hug her. It wasn't stiff or polite, it was warm, familiar, like they were finally sisters, not just characters in the same play. Inside, there were no massive floral arrangements, no ice sculptures, no distant aunts with clipboards. Just 30 guests seated in a circle around a small wooden stage. On each table, handwritten cards marked the names. Danielle noticed her place first, right at the front. Danielle Rivers and family, sister of the bride. She ran her fingers over the lettering like it might vanish if she blinked. Cameron pulled out her chair and sat beside her, Sky already twirling in the grass with 2 other flower girls near the arbor. No one whispered. No one stared. No one judged. Danielle didn't realize how tense her shoulders had been until they finally relaxed. The ceremony began shortly after. Maurice stood tall beside a local officiant dressed in a charcoal suit, clean-cut but not flashy. His smile looked like someone finally breathing. When Alicia walked down the short path, there was no orchestral crescendo, just soft acoustic guitar and sunlight dancing through the branches. But when Alicia reached the platform and turned to begin her vows, she paused, just long enough to glance at Danielle. "I spent a long time believing that love had to look a certain way," she said, her voice steady. "Polished, impressive, approved." She looked at Maurice. "But real love doesn't ask for permission. It asks for presence." Danielle felt her chest tighten. Then Maurice took her hands and said his vows. "I promise to never let the noise of others drown out the voice that matters most. Yours." Cameron reached over and gave Danielle's hand a squeeze. She didn't realize she was crying until the breeze kissed her cheek. After the ceremony, there was no elaborate reception, just laughter, homemade food on long wooden tables, and a lot of barefoot dancing in the grass. Kids ran between the tables playing tag. Adults sat without posturing. Danielle spent most of it simply watching Alicia and Maurice dance, watching Sky chase bubbles under the fading sun, watching her husband laugh with strangers who didn't care about last names or legacy. For the first time in a very long time, Danielle didn't feel like she was performing. Later, as dusk settled into the soft kind of evening that made memories out of moments, Alicia found her sister sitting on the edge of a garden bed watching Sky. She sat beside her, folding her dress beneath her knees. "I didn't think it would feel this peaceful," Danielle nodded. "You look lighter." Alicia glanced at her. "I feel it. Like I finally stopped running towards something that never wanted to hold me." Danielle didn't say anything right away. Then she asked, "Do they know you did this?" "They found out," Alicia said. "Dad sent me a one-line text. Good luck with your choices. Mom hasn't said a word." "Are you okay with that?" Alicia breathed in deeply. "I wasn't, but now, yeah, I am." She looked at Danielle. "I didn't just rewrite my wedding, I'm rewriting my whole life." Danielle smiled. "Welcome to the blank page." Alicia laughed softly. "Thank you for showing me how to start." They didn't say goodbye after that. They just sat for a while, shoulder to shoulder, watching the people they loved most exist without fear. Before leaving, Danielle took a moment alone. She wandered back to the main hall where guests had already cleared out. It was quiet now, just the smell of wood, flowers, and warm candle wax. She stood in the center of the room, closed her eyes, let herself feel what she never had at her own family events. Enough. Back at home, long after Sky had fallen asleep, Danielle stood by the window in the dark, sipping a final glass of wine. Cameron approached, wrapping his arms around her waist from behind. "How was it?" he whispered. She leaned back against him. "It was real. Did it give you what you needed?" "No," she said, then paused. "It gave me what I never thought I'd get." "Which is?" She turned to face him. "Belonging. But not the kind you chase, the kind you choose." He kissed her gently, and this time Danielle didn't feel like she had to defend her place in the world. She simply was. A woman, a leader, a mother, a sister, whole. If you made it to the end, comment the word belonging, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with your friends and family.